Fan service. We can all agree this is a little outdated, right? Talking about fan service feels like bashing a Michael Bay movie, discourse from a bygone era. We, as a community, have grown past this. Even if Orihime is underage, she's still got some big ass titties. Why wouldn't people go crazy over it? Did you eat paint chips as a child, or are you naturally stupid? She's a fictional character. Who gives a shit? I fully get where you're coming from, but let's face it, this is anime. There's always fan service of characters of a questionable age. It's for teen boys. Of course teen girls are drawn like that. I'll never understand the complaints about fan service and anime. Vulgar fan service. Only gets worse. Welcome to anime. So, you probably had a few expectations when you clicked on this video. For one, you most likely expect me to be pretty critical of fan service. Or maybe you even feel attacked already and think I'm calling all anime fans keyboard-crusted lolicons. No. The more I pondered making this video, its scope kept increasing, and I think there's a lot more to be discussed here than boobs on drawing bad. And don't get it twisted, I do have an opinion on this topic, but we'll get to that in the conclusion. For now, I want this to be a bit more of an open dialogue. I want to take you on my journey and through my research. So let's start with... If you've never engaged in any kind of feminist discourse, then you might be tempted to ask yourself, what's the harm? Let me enjoy my big titty porn in peace. This, of course, ignores the very harmful stereotypes and portrayals of women during these fan service moments. Even the term fan service is pretty questionable and problematic. Which fans are being served by this upskirt shot exactly? Well, the intended answer is straight men, and that's fine. As a straight man myself, I won't pretend like seeing Rangiku for the first time didn't awaken something in me as a kid. But at the same exact time, it was never my body being used as a trophy or a gag. From a woman's gaze, fan service is often at best kind of annoying, a great show being abruptly interrupted so that horny dudes can fantasize in the middle of it. And at worst, it can be frightening to find a show you like, characters you relate to, and then BLAM! The main girl's getting... It's exhausting, and I'm sure many of you have tried to show your girlfriend's, sister's, mom's anime before, only to forget about some random Hot Springs gag, half the time including an underage girl, and cringe so hard that you became a black hole. There's a reason for that cringe. It's not weird for women to react this way. Objectification doesn't feel good. Remember that word for later. First, let's go over some of the common counter-arguments. Argument 1, it's part of Japanese culture. Japan certainly does allow for more risque media to lay around for public consumption. Nothing has been the same since I learned about the panty vending machines. And although I have an issue with the generalization of saying Japanese people love random breasts being thrown into their cartoons, I can at least agree that it happens pretty often in the culture. Now, is that actually a good thing?
Every single time I meet up with my friends, all of us have at least 5 stories about chikan. Yabai yatsu.
Let's be honest with ourselves, Japan has a chikan or molester problem. Accounting for the fact that the vast majority of these cases go unreported, some estimates claim 1 in every 2 women in Tokyo experience molestation at some point in their lives. Bells on backpacks, safety apps, the fact that phones in Japan legally have to make a loud shutter sound when you take a picture. Plenty of studies have also linked pornography consumption to a desensitized view of women. And this goes deeper than regular vanilla fan service. Sure, having the MC accidentally, or sometimes not so accidentally, feel up the female cast could probably be harmful on its own, but it gets worse. Much worse. So just lay it all out there. There is a lot of in anime. This takes everything I talked about women feeling uncomfortable by watching fan service and dials it up to 20. And of course, some new issues are sprinkled in there. Sexual anime is often portrayed as sexy. The shots, the noises made, half the time the scenes are just softcore, like straight up. And sometimes even just violence against women is framed this way. Look at the scene from Fire Force. What is going on here? Why is an underlying goal of this scene arousal? Are we as the viewer really supposed to be feeling titillation at the bad guy beating her? Of course, even when the scenes aren't framed as hot, the women are relegated to being damsels in distress. It's here that I question how large this supposed cultural gap really is. Western media has a long history of fridging, a trope where a woman undergoes some tragic fate for the sake of a male character's development. Movies, games, it's practically everywhere you look. Asuna rather quickly goes from being a capable counterpart to just another person for Kirito to come save. Which, by the way, have you noticed that isekai are especially guilty of this thing? So many are littered with fan service, but when you consider that isekai is so often wish fulfillment the genre, it starts to make sense. The main characters often develop these dubiously consensual harems, and at that point, no guy watching it is even supposed to relate. You can't. It's purely a fantasy to project oneself onto. You get to live in his shoes and pretend that you too are Mr. Bitches. Not just that, but also so powerful you break the rules of the world. And universally revered, and like, do you see how juvenile this stuff actually is? But I suppose that takes us to the next counter-argument. Argument 2, the target age is young boys. This one is really easy to poke holes in. First off, shonen even domestically is not exclusively consumed by young boys, and we should ask ourselves why aren't female readers considered important enough to not shove naked underage girls in their face. But even more damningly, take everything I just pointed out, treating women like trophies, giving zero agency, sexualizing assault and violence against women, and then let's package and ship that to stressed out adolescents going through puberty.
What could possibly go wrong?
But okay, time out. So far, I've been very critical of fan service, to the point that my conclusions might seem pretty straightforward. You might be wondering what all that preamble at the start was about. Well, this is the moment. This is the thing that shaped the video and made me question my views on the topic. Because, well, here I am blaming media for poisoning the minds of the youth. And you want to know what I honestly reminded myself of?
It seems like these things have gotten so much worse since video games became so realistic and so violent.
But as I had these thoughts, there was a whole other side of me that couldn't help but think, you're being ridiculous. There was a huge difference between Mortal Kombat fatalities and SAO busting out the tentacles with zero shame. A character being over-sexualized is way worse than portraying a little gore. I mean, one is much healthier for young boys to be consuming, right? Oh wait, that sounds kinda bad. And before I knew it, I was arriving at the third and probably most solid defense of fan service in anime. Argument 3, are boobs really worse than jizz? Yep, I have somehow managed to bring up hentai and all in the same video. Were I monetized, I assume YouTube would actually take money out of my bank account for uploading this. But if you would like to help me get monetized, I'd really appreciate you subscribing. I'm on the road to 5K subs and would love to see you come along for the journey. Leave a comment, drop a like, any of that would be super appreciated. Anyways, back to the video. So what this argument seeks to point out is the hypocrisy in redeeming a character like Vegeta who has canonically murdered entire species in cold blood. But when an author tries to redeem a rapist like Bryce from 13 Reasons Why, we start to question what's on the author's hard drive. Ordinarily, I would never argue the redemption of an evil character or lack of appropriate punishment for their crimes would promote violence in young people or create violent adults. But well, that is exactly where we take these conversations in the context of fan service. And sure, the extremes exist. If your bud is watching Boku no Pico, we can probably agree he's a little fucked up, the same way that your film bro who's really obsessed with Taxi Driver and Joker probably needs to get checked out.
This is why you're living with your mama. Wake up!
Those are the extremes. But we would never call someone just reading Dune a weirdo despite Paul killing so many people he'd make Eren Yeager blush. Now, of course, people who dislike fan service do have a counter-argument. It goes something like this. Objection! Most of us don't have personal experience interacting with a generator. Most of us have spoken with someone looking to take advantage of us, a manipulator, a predator, and that isn't necessarily limited to sexual exploitation. Why do you hate Miss Umbridge more than Voldemort? Why does Longfang stealing Appa get more of a reaction out of people than the Fire Lord plotting to take over the world? Heck, I to this day refuse to watch the scene in the Boo arc where the dog gets shot, but I'll gladly watch Boo blow up planet Earth. That is to say, humans are emotional creatures. We get so obsessed with theories and intellectual analysis that we forget that unless we can translate all that theory into something practical and substantive, it's just pseudo-intellectualist vibes. And yet, while that seems to answer why we can forgive Vegeta but not Bryce, I won't lie, something about it just isn't sitting right. I've always been very spiritual, and I remember as a kid being told I would go to hell for killing someone in a video game, which seemed stupid and ridiculous, but I won't lie, it did work to scare me. Would I be putting the same message out into the world? Don't watch One Piece, kids, or else you'll turn into Diddy. No, that's stupid. I like Ghost in the Shell, and sure, the nudity plays into the film's transhumanist themes, but do I think the creator also knew what he was doing? Not a doubt in my mind. I like Dragon Ball, and Master Roshi was wild in back in the day. Are all my old favorite anime problematic? Am I a hypocrite for still being able to enjoy them? I don't think so. See, the true mistake was the question itself. The question we should be asking isn't should fanservice exist, but rather, what does fanservice do? That's where nuance can come in. Trying to assign harsh binaries doesn't work with art. You're going to go full Puritan or full chud, and either way, women remain an object. And the truth is, subjectivity is vital. All the most passionate fans of shows like Fire Force or Seven Deadly Sins that I've ever met have all been young men around my age. Clearly, fanservice does work, so we should ask ourselves, why is it so effective at attracting that audience? My mind wanders to the gender voting gap, or the surveys that point towards young men being twice as likely to want women to be submissive as baby boomers are. Or what about how every couple months we get gamers being angry over conventionally attractive female characters not looking like they came straight out of a Heck, how many of you have gotten a YouTube ad for a mobile game that's essentially just a picture of an ass? Do games even exist to play anymore? Why does everything need to look like porn now? Misogyny and racism usually follow one another, and it's difficult for me to see nerd culture's obsession with what is essentially a porn aesthetic mixed with white nationalist idealized beauty standards, and not notice the obvious attempts by real women to obtain this aesthetic through the infamous Mar-a-Lago face. In a sense, becoming the real-life incarnation of the ditzy big-titted damsels of anime. Objects meant to project desire upon, not people with agency. And man, if there was a single image that could embody internalized misogyny, it'd be this one. So how are excessive violence and objectification in media different? Well, objectification is what leads to the violence becoming excessive. The reason why we perceive Tanjiro as being so empathetic despite decapitating people on the regular is because most in his world don't view demons as people. Tanjiro still recognizes their personhood, so even when the most vile of antagonists is slain, we're still able to feel the tragedy of it all. Or take Luke slashing through stormtroopers. Why is that violence okay to us? Well, in that case, Luke is the embodiment of righteousness, whilst they are a Nazi allegory. Incidentally being a rather apt illustration of how serving as the tool of authoritarianism strips your own humanity away. You put on the uniform and become a tool for your master. From here, you should be able to see how the objectification of women isn't just distasteful or upsetting, it's dangerous. That is what justifies abuse, causes lawmakers to believe Chikan aren't that big of a deal after all, or of course enables MAGA lobbyists to claim all those schoolgirls are better off dead anyways. There is a difference between sexualization and objectification, no doubt. Watching High School DxD isn't going to turn you into a rapist any more than playing Call of Duty is going to turn you into a mass shooter. It's okay to enjoy watching it, but kind of like how so many mass shooters are avid COD fans, we shouldn't ignore the connection either. Media literacy is important. Engage with the art you consume. Don't be oversensitive, and understand that instead of feeling attacked, each and every debate, each and every conversation is an opportunity for you to expand your perspective. Thank you so much for watching. God bless, and have a wonderful night.